Okay, good afternoon and good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining today's webinar. My name is Matt Johnson. I'm joined by Phil Flaherty, and today we're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking to you about expanding demand response and DER programs through customer engagement and artificial intelligence. You may have seen that recently EnergyHub and Bidgely announced a partnership that would link our two platforms to provide utilities with a best-in-class offering that spans customer engagement, demand-side management, and DER programs and customer interactions. I'm going to spend some time today taking a deeper dive into some applications and use cases for those linked platforms, and hopefully you'll gain some insight into how we can work with you. So first, some logistics before we dive in. So as I mentioned, we're going to be with you for the next 30 minutes. We'll take 20 to 25 minutes and run through 10 to 15 slides, and we'll leave 5 to 10 minutes at the end for questions and answers. Everybody is on mute. If you're interested in submitting a question to us, please use the GoToWebinar control panel. You'll see an interface there where you can type in questions, and we'll compile those questions and do our best to answer as many as we can in the time allotted. And then we will make a recording or on-demand recording of the webinar available afterwards. So I will hopefully get ahead of that question, that inevitable question. As I mentioned, I'm Matt Johnson. I'm Vice President of Business Development at EnergyHub. I'm joined today by Phil Flaherty, Director of Business Development from Bidgely. And with that, why don't we dive into it? So if you're not familiar with EnergyHub, we are a provider of grid edge distributed energy resource management software to utilities. We work with around 40 utilities around the country, managing everything from bring your own thermostat demand response programs to electric vehicle, water heater, solar and storage programs. Basically, the value of our platform is designed to help utilities get value out of grid edge devices, especially customer-owned grid edge devices. And now I'll turn it over to Phil to give a brief introduction on Bidgely.
Great, thanks, Matt. So first and foremost, kind of very excited about this partnership as well as the opportunity to be here with you all today to share some of the benefits of the solution that we're putting forward. So Bidgely specifically, though, is an analytics company introducing AI-driven insights to electric and gas utilities around the world. So our expertise lies in understanding how people use energy in their homes and leveraging this behind-the-meter insight to develop data-driven solutions. So it's the combination of Bidgely's AI-driven personalization with EnergyHub's leading grid-edge DERMS and connected device ecosystem that will help utilities engage customers while shaping load. You can go to the next slide. So it's not news that the way that homes are connected is changing. New and connected devices are being introduced in all areas of the home, and utilities are losing mindshare to big, influential players that are using data and interconnected devices to change the way people interact with their home. Most, if not all, of the customers, I would think, do not think about any devices in respect to their energy usage as long as they're comfortable. But one specific area that doesn't impact energy and is an opportunity for this partnership to influence is the growth of distributed energy resources.
So let's take a little deeper dive into that. So this is a chart that some statistics that the folks at Green Tech Media put together last year that basically shows the growth of distributed energy resources from 2017 projected all the way out to 2023. So what you see is that GTM is projecting growth from about 46 gigawatts to 104 gigawatts in controllable distributed energy resources and connected devices at the edge of the grid. So, there's the potential for this to be a very large problem for utilities. There's also the potential for it to be a very big opportunity, right? Consumers are becoming more connected. Consumers, prosumers, and other folks who are adopting distributed energy resources are becoming more interested in having a two-way relationship with utilities and more interested in how they consume energy. So utilities need to be more proactive about getting connected devices into customers' homes and building lasting relationships with consumers who have those connected devices and distributed energy resources in order to get value out of those devices. and avoid kind of being left on the side, as Phil mentioned, as other connected device providers continue to build a lasting relationship with consumers. So, that is really one of the core value propositions of the Bidgely EnergyHub partnership. So we're going to spend, we've identified many potential benefits to our partnership. They don't all fit into a half-an-hour webinar, however. So today we're going to focus on three areas where we see the linked Bidgely EnergyHub platform providing near-term value to utilities. So basically, we're going to look at how Bidgely can help provide data-driven insights into how customers are using connected devices and distributed energy resources, how those insights can be used to drive enrollment and demand-side management programs and the overall installation of more connected devices in your service territory, and then how EnergyHub's Mercury platform can be used to help manage and control those devices to deliver value at the edge of the grid to utilities. So I'll turn it back to Phil to talk a little bit about that AI and personalization.
Yep. So when we think about those values to both the customer and the utility, for us it really starts with data. So we see data as the next frontier for modernizing and personalizing programs, as it gives an unprecedented understanding about customers and their changing energy uses. As energy use, as more devices are connected and more distributed energy resources are adopted. And so Bidgely is able to ingest meter data at scale without any sensors in the home to develop per home, per appliance load shapes. And our patented ability to disaggregate combined with other data sets on our AI platform creates a personalized experience that evolves with the customer. And that's a key point about evolving with the customer, because as the previous GTM images showed, the adoption is increasing year over year of connected devices and distributed resources, but it's not doing so in a uniform way. It's doing so in a nuanced way. So understanding, how those devices are being adopted and used in the home is imperative. So additionally, as new connected devices and DERs come online, there will be an increased need to understand the locational and time value of each of those resources to develop programs that can be optimized for the customer and to the grid. So let's look at an example. Here's a quick example applying the territory-wide intelligence I just talked about to a specific customer. So in this case, Bidgely identifies the customer's HVAC as inefficient based on their AC usage. So the return on investment to this particular customer for purchasing the smart thermostat is high, or higher than the average customer that you may get from just a more broad-based approach to marketing. So this customer then receives a personalized message based on their actual usage, prompting them to take action. In this case, purchasing a smart thermostat and participating in a BYOT program. And so the cool part is this works. AI-driven personalization is proven to work. Throughout our deployments around the country and around the world, we are delivering about 500,000 plus notifications a week with a very high open rate and a high customer satisfaction rate because of that personalization. It continues to engage customers and bring them back. So moving on from this customer-focused example, let's look at the impacts to a BYOT program on the whole.
So great. So so this is a great opportunity to kind of dive into how Bidgely's personalized intelligence can drive growth in a particular program structure. So if you're familiar with EnergyHub, we run a lot of bring your own thermostat programs around the country. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of look at how this approach can be applied to BYOT. So if you look at the funnel on the left-hand side, if you're familiar with the traditional marketing approach of the bring your own thermostat program, primarily customers who already have connected devices are targeted for enrollment in these programs. So if you have a Nest or a Honeywell or an Ecobee or an Emerson thermostat, you receive an email from Nest, or you receive an in-app solicitation from Honeywell, and you're driven to enroll in a bring your own thermostat demand response program. You enroll through EnergyHub's platform, and then you're eligible for incentives, and you're a controllable asset for the utility. While that works great, it leaves a lot of customers on the sideline who are not easily reachable, and those are customers who do not yet have connected devices. So the great thing about the reach of Bidgely's home energy reports and the analytics that underlie those home energy reports is that they're reaching every customer in your service territory. So in addition, in the marketing model driven by our linked platforms, not only the customers who already have a connected thermostat being reached, but the customer who does not have a connected thermostat is being reached. So basically, we're widening the top of the funnel by reaching 100% of your customers instead of some subset. And then we are getting more of those customers to either enroll their connected devices or go out to a marketplace and buy a connected device and then get it. A really powerful way to really drive enrollment substantially. You know, we estimate it as potentially as much as 5x if you assume 20% of your customers have connected thermostats and the rest don't. So it's an example that we're particularly excited about with this partnership.
Absolutely, and maybe just to reiterate a point on that, it's consumers that are driving this adoption, right? So there's lots of exciting options for them in the market. Those options continue to evolve and change, and as they are introducing new devices in their home, the utility needs to be part of that conversation, and that's really where, you know, this partnership comes in. So here's two examples showing, you know, that by matching programs with savings or earnings potential, we can create value for the people to participate. So we already walked through the top example briefly about how a customer with high HVAC usage essentially can be converted into a customer in a BYOT program and ultimately have their load controlled. And then the second example here is about electric vehicles, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But really what I want to reemphasize now is this point. You know, using AI to estimate return on investment and proactively communicate with customers at the right time and in the right way leads to both higher program participation and higher customer satisfaction. And so increasing both will be imperative to retain customer mindshare as the devices in the home change, and these devices that are both controllable and non-controllable. And that's really what we see here. So by managing controllable and non-controllable devices, we are expanding the overall addressable demand response load. And so this image is really meant to represent, you know, approximately the 20+% of connected thermostats in orange, and then, you know, other non-controllable devices in the homes in blue. In reality, this is a coordinated effort within each home. So while the number of connected devices is increasing, not every home has a device like a smart thermostat, nor will every device be connected or controllable in a home. And so you could think about, you know, things like cooking and laundry as examples that you may be able to behaviorally influence, but not necessarily control. And so combining the effectiveness of DR controls with the reach of a behavioral DR program nets the overall increase in demand response.
So let's take a look at what that looks like in terms of a load curve during an actual event. So you're familiar with load curve here. If green is the baseline that we're expecting on a normal non-demand response day, a traditional load curve is reflected by the gray shape there. So that's a demand response event where there's a temperature setback and you see a very large decrease at the beginning of the event and a degradation load shed over time as more and more homes heat up. Now, if you've seen other EnergyHub webinars, we've referred to some of our AI-driven analytics around firm load dispatch, where basically we're delivering a flat or more sculpted load shape that's more targeted towards your one peak hour if you're in a 4 CP situation or something like that. And then the great thing about managing the non-controllable loads through Bidgely is that we're increasing that load shed still in a sculpted way even further. So you're reaching a greater percentage of your homes in your service territory and really maximizing the amount of shed, even with customers who don't have connected devices. So a reason we're very excited about that. So to summarize our thinking on these first two value propositions around driving enrollment in connected device demand response programs and expanding DR to include non-controllable loads. If you really look at, if you think of this axis as the number of customers on the vertical axis and the number of devices in homes on the horizontal axis. A traditional demand response program is going to reach a very small percentage of customers, and I typically only put one device in each customer's home, right? So a BYOT demand response program as it exists today, we're growing the number of customers we're reaching because we have more outreach through device partners, and we're expanding the number of devices in homes because customers are installing more and more connected devices, so are naturally liable to enroll those devices in BYOT programs if they're eligible. But as Phil mentioned, through using Bidgely's kind of AI targeted and personalized messaging, we really think we can drive the adoption of controllable devices. You're getting an even greater percentage of customers buying controllable connected devices and DVRs, and you're expanding the number of devices each of those customers have in their homes and are enrolling in programs. So you're moving even further up the X and Y axis. And then as the final layer there in gold, we're layering on the non-controllable appliances that Phil was just talking about. So basically giving you close to, in an ideal world, saturation, both in the number of residential customers you're reaching and the number of controllable and non-controllable loads in their homes that you're able to access. So really, it provides a fairly comprehensive solution to this type of DSM approach.
And maybe a quick point before we move on from that image. I mean, I think what this does a good job of, essentially displaying is the reach. So we are now able to reach a larger set of customers and a larger set of devices. But what I think this image does not capture is necessarily the coordination of all of those new customers and new devices, and essentially using AI to understand what is happening in that home so we can develop programs that are more of a fit to that particular customer's needs, as well as the grid needs in that particular location. And that coordination is, I think, an important piece to bring up. So on the next slide, we were talking about demand response and kind of worked through some of those key value props that we just talked about. So I wanted to shift slightly to distributed energy resources and providing customers an ecosystem to purchase and connect new equipment. And in doing so, when appropriate, to purchase that equipment through a utility marketplace. And so the prevalence of utility marketplaces, are becoming more and more common. We're seeing those in more and more utilities. The traction, meaning essentially the amount of customers going to that marketplace and the purchases they are making is increasing. That has largely been driven by thermostats, but there are certainly new energy efficient and energy related and even non-energy related products that are getting added. And so with that, let's use an electric vehicle as an example to kind of walk through a bit of a story here. So EV purchases continue to rise year over year, but more often than not, utilities do not know which of their customers own an EV. So it starts with detection. Bidgely can detect an EV, or more specifically, the EV charger and the associated charging pattern, meaning the length of the charge, the peak kW of the charge, etc. And then we can factor in the locational and time value of this particular customer's electric vehicle, and then personalize products and services that are and offer that customer, including things like an upgraded charger and or participation in a managed charging program. And so that would really be the kind of handoff here from Bidgely to either the marketplace and or EnergyHub. If you want to take it back over, Matt.
Sure. So yeah, right. So once once Bidgely has identified that there's a customer with an electric vehicle doing EV charging, obviously you as the utility want to try to get them enrolled in a DSM program, whether it's a rebate program or a managed charging program or a time of use program. So you're either going to drive them to go to a marketplace and purchase a level 2 charger that would be controllable and integrated with EnergyHub's platform. The customer installs that level 2 charger, and then they can enroll in a utility program. Or in a future case, we might be able to identify an electric vehicle that's charging directly and get that customer to enroll in an EV program potentially without the use of a level 2 charger and just directly manage that EV from EnergyHub's platform. But in either case, you're driving more customers you're making more customers aware of an EV demand side management program. You're getting them enrolled in those programs. You're driving the adoption of the additional hardware, and then you're turning them into an asset, right, by using the Mercury platform to intelligently manage how that electric vehicle is charged at the edge of the grid and turning it into a resource versus a liability.
And Matt, if I could just make one last point before we move on, and apologies for interrupting you, but you know, I think this example is good for multiple reasons. It's certainly topical with the adoption of electric vehicles, but I also think it kind of starts to pair, you know, a couple ideas together related to, you know, customer needs versus grid needs. And so, you know, this example starts with a customer-driven decision. A bad pun, but a customer-driven decision to purchase an EV, and then is prompted that customer with something personal to them to essentially upgrade their charger. But at that point, the focus starts to shift then to the grid, where we have engaged that customer, brought them into a marketplace or a managed charging program, and now that customer has had a very, you know, a seamless experience that felt personalized to them, but has tremendous grid value as well.
Great, yeah, that's a really good point. So those are the three areas we wanted to focus on today. So just to close, you know, we've laid out a bunch of customer and utility benefits here. Hopefully, I won't repeat all of these because hopefully they become fairly clear over the course of the past 20 minutes or so. But really the goal of the partnership that EnergyHub and Bidgely have created is to link our platforms to, you know, bring the benefits of the AI and personalization that Bidgely offers to a wider swath of demand-side management programs and the type of device control programs that EnergyHub specializes in controlling. So yeah, to work with a linked EnergyHub Bidgely platform is to deliver more cost-effective, more successful demand-side management programs for utilities, and at the same time provide more personalized and higher value demand-side management experience, or just overall relationship between a customer and a utility. So with that brings our presentation to a conclusion. So we've got about 8 minutes for questions. So just a reminder, everybody's on mute, but you can use the GoToWebinar control panel to submit any questions you might have, and we will do our best to get them answered. So let me just review these real quickly. So Phil, why don't I just kick the first one to you. So can you describe in greater detail how the Bidgely disaggregation product works and how it leads to personalization?
Sure. So, you know, certainly I can give you there's a long-winded answer to that, but the short answer, I think, is if you think about it from the standpoint of pattern recognition. So every appliance in a home has a particular signature, an energy signature, and our intelligence is able to identify those signatures through pattern recognition, and then associate, you know, first the existence of a particular appliance, and we can do so for about 10 to 12 appliances in the home, and then the usage of that appliance. And from there, we can extrapolate, you know, a lot of additional insight based on other data that we would overlay that disaggregation of the usage. So as an example of how that creates personalization, you know, I think the HVAC example is a good one or an easy one in this example, or for this use case, meaning a customer's HVAC may be inefficient in respect to peers. And informing them of that inefficiency opens the door for energy savings, but it also opens the door for other services like the ones we've talked about today, you know, like a BYOT program. So a small, simple example about how you take that disaggregation, apply the intelligence, and then offer customers something personal and unique to them based on what's happening in the home.
Okay, great. And there was a follow-up question, Phil, that I think flows naturally from this. How do you guys assess the effectiveness of the disaggregation or the overall accuracy of it?
Yeah, so in two categories is how we essentially measure the accuracy, and that's on both the detection of the appliance and then the associated usage. So, you know, we look at the existence of the appliance first, and then the usage of that associated appliance. And we have accuracy statistics on both of those categories at the appliance level. But I would step back from the question momentarily and talk about the use of the disaggregation, meaning the accuracy related to something that we would put in front of a customer is different than the accuracy needed to make informed or more informed business decisions as it relates to the grid. And so depending on the use case, kind of dictates, the level of accuracy needed.
Okay, great. So next question, what's your view on whether utilities should already have multiple connected device programs up and running before attempting to drive up the adoption of connected devices? So I guess I can take this one. I think it can go either way, right? I think you see plenty of utilities who drive the adoption of connected devices purely from an energy efficiency perspective, and I think it's both EnergyHub's and Bidgely's perspective that you're going to get the most incremental value for energy efficiency value out of a connected thermostat simply by installing that thermostat, right? All of the major connected thermostat manufacturers do a great job of improving energy efficiency, and you can get a lot of EE value out of those thermostats without bothering to layer on any complicated third-party algorithms on top of it. But even in the absence of that, if you're using an EE program to drive the adoption of connected devices, those connected devices are basically latent assets waiting for you to recruit later when you decide you need a demand response program or a managed charging program, at which point we can use EnergyHub's direct relationships with manufacturers or Bidgely's ability to use AI to send personalized messages to rapidly enroll those customers after you've already seeded the market. So I think it kind of depends on your goals and your budget restrictions. Okay, another question. Phil, you mentioned time and locational value. Could you explain a bit what you mean by that?
Sure. So, I think probably the concept is fairly straightforward. Just the value of something that's going to change based on the time or location of it. But specifically what we're talking about here is related to, let me use a load forecasting example because I think that may get the point across. The traditional way to load forecast does not necessarily factor in an evolving home, meaning the way that energy is being used in a home is changing. And so having an understanding of that home's usage is going to be very important to forecast load. And using this electric vehicle example, because the load on an electric vehicle is significant, there's instances in California where the adoption is high, where as few as 3 or 4 new electric vehicles on a particular substation would overload that substation. And so having that intelligence and then designing programs around that knowledge is important, meaning the value of reducing load on that particular overworked substation or forecasted to be overloaded substation is going to be far greater than the value of that on a substation that has capacity. And so having that intelligence to make those informed decisions is what I was getting at with the locational and time value.
Okay, great. So I think we're at almost at the bottom of the hour, so I think it's probably a good time to wrap up. But thanks to those of you who submitted questions. As I mentioned, we'll make the webinar available on demand after the fact, so you'll be able to take another look at it. And thanks for joining us today, and hope you join us on the next EnergyHub Bidgely joint webinar. Have a good day.